I just finished my shift from work, and it's 1:30 p.m. I was cleaning the tables and preparing to go home. Outside it was dark, and at this time almost no one was on the streets. They say that after 1 p.m., some weird kidnappers walk around the place, and some people disappear into nowhere. It happens especially in my neighborhood. I don't believe those. I mean, it's just a rumor. What could go wrong? I closed the shop and started walking. Since it was dark and no one was around, it did look creepy. It was even a bit chilly, and the thin jacket that I wore didn't help much. Most of the streetlights were off, so it was hard to see. As I was walking, I felt a presence behind me, but I just shrugged it off because it was just my mind playing tricks on me. The presence behind me grew, and I started to get a bit anxious. My gut feeling is never wrong. I was keeping my calm and walking like nothing happened, as I don't want the one behind me to know that I'm aware of his presence. I felt him almost near me, so I turned around and tried to punch him, but that was the worst mistake I ever made, and I instantly regretted it. Right after I turned out, I was hit hard on the head with something heavy, supposedly a metal bar. I fell on my knees as I was struggling to keep my eyes open. I heard some faint voices around me. I could make out only some words like turning, collection, and dollhouse. Someone held my chin up. I couldn't see the person's face clearly as my sight was blurry. In a matter of seconds later, I blacked out completely. I woke up with a massive headache. It felt like someone just squished my head. I found myself in a room more like a laboratory. There were many shelves with jars that had human remains inside. And that's not all. Beside me was a table with a tray on it that contained instruments that were used to carry out surgeries. What am I doing here? Am I going to be used for some sort of experiment? My thoughts were interrupted when an old-looking woman came inside the room. She wore all black and covered her face with a big hood. From the dimmest light in the room that was hanging literally on top of my face, I noticed the side of her face. It was wrinkly, and some teeth were missing. She stared at me for a solid 5 minutes with a pair of bloodshot red eyes. Then she took her hood off. I was so shocked to death. She had one eye missing, more likely gouged out. She was bald, and something like a small horn was sticking out of her forehead. She gave off an eerie feeling. Whatever she's planning to do with me is not good. I don't believe in magic shits, but the thought of me being sacrificed in some type of cult made me have goosebumps. I tried to say something, but no words came out of my mouth. I have never been this scared in my whole life. She keeps walking around me while muttering something strange. Halfway coming in front of me, she takes out a fistful of purple powder. She spreads it all over my body, making me itch. Before leaving the room, she turns around one last time, giving me a creepy smile, then walks out completely. After she left, I looked around to see if I could find anything to free myself. My eyes landed on the table on my right. I noticed a remote. I tried to grab it, but it was too far. I tried as hard as I could, and finally, my hands reached it. Just as I was about to grab it, a sudden burn hit my skin, making me drop the remote. I felt my eyes tearing up and probably turning red. The itchiness became so bad, I felt like crazy. My body reacted by itself as I started to throw myself everywhere. The pain was increasing every second while I was frantically moving, trying to free myself. I felt my body slowly weaken. My vision became blurry. I was out of breath, panting heavily, but the pain still didn't ease. Someone suddenly walked inside, more like some people. They were the men from before that kidnapped me. They locked the door behind them and started putting on gloves, masks, and an apron. I stared at them getting ready since I couldn't even escape. I watched as they all surrounded me. A guy injected something into me, and it made me feel dizzy. My vision started to go blurry as my surroundings were spinning. I could hear metal clanking, meaning they were taking those tools on the tray laid on the table. The last thing I saw was one of them taking a scalpel and about to cut somewhere. After that, I passed out completely, feeling a slight sting on my left thigh. I woke up, paralyzed. I slowly opened my eyes, but my vision was still blurry. After a while, when I got back my vision, I noticed I wasn't in the place before. I was sitting on a chair instead. I looked around and saw many life-size dolls sitting or lying down or in different positions. Some of them had blood dripping down from different cracks. I couldn't feel my body. I wasn't able to move. I looked down at my feet still with my head straight, and I noticed my feet were different, shinier, and looked like plastic, just like the other doll's feet. That's when I realized I was one of them. They turned me into a doll. Internally, I started to panic, and I looked around everywhere. If I still can think in my mind, then I think the others can as well. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a doll in a suit. I presumed it was a boy. His eyes were moving everywhere as if asking for help. I tried to move my head in his direction but couldn't. He didn't notice me. I saw some tears coming out of his shiny face. I was trying my best to get myself noticed by him, but I just couldn't do anything about it. I was looking around for a way out or anything that could help me, but the room was only filled with dolls and a small window all the way up so that no one could reach it. Is this how I'm gonna die? Or I might already be dead. What would have happened if I just stayed home and didn't go to work? What would have happened if I took another road? What would have happened if I went home a bit earlier? Would I still be here? Or would I be on my bed relaxing? So many thoughts flooded my mind, and I started to tear up. I was sobbing quietly, thinking there was no escape but to live the rest of my life as a humanoid doll. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise beside me. I turned my pupils to see it was the boy from earlier. He was trying to talk to me. He noticed that I was alive. Just seeing him like this made me have a little bit of hope, so I tried to talk back, making noises since my mouth was sealed and I couldn't talk. After a while, both of us gave up as neither of us understood each other. We're all completely hopeless. Only a miracle could be able to save us, which I doubt will ever happen. Right when I was starting to accept my fate, something abruptly broke down the small window on top of the wall, more like someone. My eyes widened in shock as I watched a big hole form in the wall. The stars from the night sky were clearer, and the moon was shining brighter than any other day. There stood a man in a hood, watching down on us as if we're some measly dogs getting rescued. If it wasn't for the situation I was in, I would have given him the nastiest look ever. But right now, I'm all thankful that there's someone here to save us. He jumped down and made his way towards me with slow and dangerous steps. Soon after, he stopped right in front of my face. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a shiny object on his back. It was a dagger. He took it out on full view for me to see, and I was staring at it in fear. I slowly looked up at him and widened my eyes in shock. The moonlight hit the side of his face, and I instantly recognized the person. I was feeling every single emotion at once: anger, betrayal, sadness, relief, everything. Before I could get the time to process what was happening, I felt a sharp, piercing pain on the side of my neck. He stabbed me, and I almost heard a low gasp from beside me. The last thing I heard was an evil grin from him before blacking out completely. I'll make sure he regrets what he did.